Alright, a few months ago I went to Spain. The reason? I discovered this white little dot from Google Maps. It all started from a conversation on Telegram with one of my co-workers, and I want to subtitle it for you.
Se voi guardate la Spagna su Google Maps, potete notare quell'angolino bianco a sud-est di Granada. Questa zona qua è detta la zona delle serre di Almeria. Chilometri e chilometri e chilometri. Praticamente è il più grande agglomerato di serre al mondo e da lì la Spagna esporta in tutta l'Europa.
Ma questo è pazzesco. Senti, ora quasi quasi ci faccio un salto a gennaio nel 2023.
It may sound strange, but the issue intrigued us so much that we decided to get on a plane, meet at the airport in Malaga, rent a car and go see these greenhouses in person. You may have never noticed it, but most of the fruits and vegetables we find on the shelves of our supermarket come from Spain. Then how come we find them at all times of the year? We often tend to forget that there's a long process behind fruits and vegetables that requires sowing, harvesting, farm machinery, fertilizer, irrigation systems and packaging. We need advertising campaigns and studies that assess environmental impact, energy security and profit maximization. We are referring, in a nutshell, to agribusiness, that is the business sector which is worth literally billions and billions of dollars globally. After all, we all have to eat. And the less food costs, the more we will buy it without asking too many questions. And this is precisely the principle behind the Mar de Plastico, Almeria's Sea of Plastic. Greenhouses here cover more than 45,000 hectares of land, and most of the facilities are located near the municipalities of Ejido, which is, not coincidentally, called the Greenhouse of Europe, like in Berja, San Isidro de Níjar and Roquetas de Mar. Alone, the Sea of Plastic produces about 3.5 million tons of food annually, two-thirds of which is exported to every part of the old continent. Almeria's greenhouses supply between 40 and 50% of all fruits and vegetables traded within the European Union. We are talking mainly about tomatoes, cucumbers and peppers, but also zucchini, green beans, olives, strawberries, tangerines and lemons. All foodstuff purchased mainly from Germany, France and the United Kingdom, and to a lesser extent from the Netherlands, Sweden, Italy and Poland. In Italy, for example, we might find these products in supermarkets such as Aldi or Lidl. This is a very impressive agricultural production system and supply chain, both economically and technically. Before telling you about it, however, we need to understand when and why greenhouses began to devour the province of Almeria. We are located in southern Andalusia, a land formerly under Arab rule, squeezed between the Alboran Sea, the last stretch of the Mediterranean Sea, and the Sierra Nevada Massif. This is an arid, rugged land. Rainfall is a rarity, water is scarce, and the wind vigorously lashes the coasts.
Che posto di merda. Ah, ma stavi riprendendo?
Therefore, in itself, the province of Almeria doesn't suit any agricultural activity. In fact, much of the local population lived in Alpujarra, a significantly more fertile region located south of the Sierra Nevada. Since the early 1950s, dictator Francisco Franco also decided to colonize areas near the sea in a way that would make them productive. To carry out the plan, the National Colonization Institute launched a drilling campaign in 1953. Beginning in the 1960s, the Spanish government allocated houses and plots of land on subsidized credit to the young population, which began to move to El Ejido. Given the impossibility of growing fruits and vegetables with dry, windswept soil, the farmers fenced off plots of land and built wooden or metal structures covered with polyethylene sheeting. To date, some 200 farms manage the entire Mar de Plastico, where they deploy an impressive workforce of more than 100,000 people. This economic miracle, however, hides more than a few skeletons in the closet, and it's based on a very simple assumption. The less labor costs, the more profit. Two-thirds of those employed in the greenhouses are immigrants, who come mainly from North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. More than 25,000 registered migrants reside in El Ejido alone, a third of the population of the entire city. Estimates, however, are inaccurate. This is because most workers are undocumented and work in precarious conditions, without insurance or guarantees of any kind. These are irregular migrants who, once landed or reallocated in Spain, are co-opted as agricultural laborers. After all, devoid of any citizenship, they have no choice. work and earn, or go back. As The Guardian reports, to date, there are more than 90 chabolas or slums, each capable of housing hundreds or thousands of individuals. These settlements arouse the concern of local authorities. Workdays can last up to 12 hours, with breaks of only 30 minutes under the scorching sun. The temperature, also conditioned by the climate inside the greenhouses, touches 50 degrees Celsius. For all this, the pay is very paltry, €5 per hour. Before arriving in Ejido in the planning stage of this reportage, we tried to contact local associations, workers or university professors, so as to gather the opinions of those who live in the greenhouses day in and day out. Unfortunately, we received no response. Silencio más total. Perhaps out of fear, perhaps out of disinterest, we told ourselves that no one really wants to talk about the Plastic Sea. However, when all hope seemed to have faded, we managed to get in touch, at least, with La Resistencia, a cultural, political and social association in Almeria. There is certainly no need to specify its political orientation, but it's one that has been dealing with, among other things, the exploitative situation related to the greenhouses for 4 years. And so we met Paco and Fernando, two activists who are familiar with what revolves around the Mar de Plastico. Not understanding a lick of Spanish, for interpretation and translation I turned to Giacomo, one of my colleagues who was on a video call with us. We already knew what we were getting into, but certain statements could not help but impress us.
Por las propias condiciones a la hora de trabajar, es decir, trabajar bajo plástico, cuando llega el verano es trabajar bajo 60 grados de temperatura, son condiciones de un trabajo muy duro, muchas horas al día. Las personas de Almería no quieren trabajar ahí. Este domingo mismo hablábamos con un hombre que trabaja en lo invernadero y trabaja 5 euros la hora.
In all this, the police cannot do anything at all. It must be the central state that issues warrants to inspect greenhouses and farms. Apparently, in the province of Almeria itself, the Mar de Plastico is virtually absent from both public debate and media communication. There is a very specific reason why local Spaniards do not mention it or protest against the exploitation of migrants.
Hay, diríamos, un pacto de silencio con las condiciones de trabajo en la agricultura. Y cuando pues, personas de organizaciones sociales o sindicales denunciamos esa situación, lo que nos dicen que somos anti-almerienses, ¿no? Porque vamos en contra del interés de Almería.
In other words, there's no will to find a solution. To criticize the greenhouse system would be to criticize the area's main economic engine. Yet there's another reason why the conditions of migrant workers are silenced and even accepted by the local people.
¿Y la Unión Europea ha dicho algo sobre eso?
Nada, la Unión Europea está dentro del
Pero ahí fueron varias organizaciones al Parlamento Europeo, allí pues a presentar un informe, preparé un informe escrito para que ellos puedan hacer algo, pero al final a nivel europeo tampoco...
Estamos hablando de esto, pero no hablamos de la explotación, por ejemplo, que sufre la gente trabajando en los hoteles, las mujeres que limpian las habitaciones, que le pagan más o menos eso.
To the already deep and unacceptable social wounds, we can add others no less incisive environmental ones. According to El País newspaper, the Mar de Plastico generates more than 30,000 tons of plastic waste each year, including tarpaulins, packaging, agricultural material of various kinds, and sewage spilled into the sea. In a 2014 study conducted by Spanish chemists and biologists, evidence suggested that not only groundwater but also the soil surrounding the hectares covered by the greenhouses is contaminated with cadmium, copper and lead.
Todo esto pues genera toneladas y toneladas de plástico que no se gestionan bien y pues está todo si os dais una vuelta por cualquier zona de invernadero hay montañas de plástico en los lados de los invernaderos, por los lados de la carretera, son una cosa terrible.
O sea que son una porquería de productos. O sea, son unos tomates muy llamativos, son unos pimientos súper no sé qué, pero eso cuando lo plantas tú en tu huerto no te salen así porque es que eso no es así, no es natural, ¿no?
Y entonces la calidad de este fruto es muy mal o no buena en general.
No.
Son unas verduras muy estéticas,
Okay.
pero con poco sabor, poco
agradable. Okay.
Las semillas, son semillas modificadas genéticamente y además son semillas estériles, ¿no?
Driving through the maze of greenhouses amidst the dry looks of passerby, we came across water collection tanks, landfills, farms, mountains of manure and fruit crates, organic waste, plastic sheeting, stranded in shrubs or blown away by the lashing wind. We took a close look at crops inside greenhouses, food waste, and what looked like real streets in a ghost town made of polyethylene.
Stiamo cercando il drone di Simone, che io lo sapevo che sarebbe venuto perché c'è troppo vento, ma lui non ha voluto ascoltarmi. Però ne approfitto per farvi vedere l'interno di enormi strutture. Ci sono pomodori.
Would be impossible to move within this labyrinth without navigator. That number, 45,000 hectares, is not enough to truly realize the size of the entire system. In September 2019, journalist Stephanie Mandard wrote an article for Le Monde, with the rather telling title "In Andalusia, Immerse Yourself in the Hell of Organic Tomato Greenhouses." Finally, regarding waste, municipalities in the province of Almeria have pledged in 2020 to recycle all plastic waste, including pesticide and fertilizer containers, tarps and covers. That this innovation may indeed represent a step forward from the point of view of the environment and the quality of cultivated products, we do not doubt. However, we struggle to understand how a system that relies on exploitation and silence can be considered sustainable. Unfortunately, we cannot know what goes on inside the greenhouses day in and day out, and the aura of secrecy behind which the owners hide makes us questioning the transparency of some activities. Examining it from an elevated point, the area covered by white sheets seems to extend even beyond the sea, boundless as it is. The reflection is so strong that it hurts the eyes. But there's a reason why the Mare Plastico is so white.
Ora probabilmente non riuscirete a sentire il brio del vento che fa a 60 km/h, però quello che c'è qui in fondo è tutto il mare di plastica con i teli bianchi delle serre e siccome sono così bianchi riflettono terribilmente il sole al punto tale che è impossibile vedere addirittura quello che c'è all'orizzonte proprio per via del forte riflesso ed è un qualcosa di secondo me agghiacciante e anche disturbante.
Ora vedete la superficie alle mie spalle? Vi starete chiedendo perché questi teli sono tutti bianchi. Il motivo è l'effetto albedo.
The albedo effect would be incisive enough to reduce every 10 years the local temperature by 0.3 degrees Celsius. Basically, the entire Campo de Dalias would be cooling, in contrast to what will happen in the rest of Andalusia, which will always be warmer. However, this is a very small benefit, if one compares it to what lies behind this farm system, because it's the people, after all, who are the real engine of the Garden of Europe. Now, to be outraged at the immobility of the politics is really simple. What we must ask ourselves, however, is whether we would be willing to give up the enormous productivity of the plastic sea, as well as its ability to satisfy our voracious needs for cheap food. We're not here to be self-righteous or hypocritical. We too shop for groceries and try to save money. As with everything around us, however, it would be good if, even in the supermarket, we ask ourselves a few questions, like, why can we eat a tomato or zucchini in winter? Why do they cost less compared to the product a farmer would sell us at the market? Who picked them and where? Remember, food is not infinite. In fact, we will have less and less of it in the future, and we will need it more and more. The Mare Plastico is a testament to human ingenuity, its ability to adapt, as well as its ability to take profits from an area and turn it into the engine of an entire nation's economy. And as much as living in towns like Ejido may seem depressing to us, it's our personal viewpoint. Here ends our journey of discovery, of one of the strangest places we had ever seen, in a place we certainly do not immediately think of when we think of Spain, the only human work clearly visible from space. I would venture to say a post-apocalyptic scenario, which nevertheless hasn't yet exhausted its productive potential, a known place where people like us live and work in abysmal conditions to guarantee Europe its annual fruit and vegetable quota. All of this is the Mare Plastico.